Okay, let's just jump right in with one of the most famous facts in the entire world. Seriously, this thing is everywhere, it's a total cliché, I guarantee you've heard it. It goes a little something like this.
Right? You know the one. The idea is that the other 90% is just sitting there, asleep. All this untapped potential, just waiting for you to unleash it. If you could just find the key, you'd have this incredible memory, amazing creativity, heck, maybe even psychic powers.
I mean, really think about it. What if this one idea, the one that's inspired blockbuster movies, countless books, and a whole self-help industry, what if it's one of the biggest scientific myths of all time? Well, let's dig in and find out.
Okay, first things first. Look, if something is a scientific fact, it has to come from somewhere, right? There's got to be a research paper, a study, some scientist who proved it. So our first job is to trace this thing back to its source.
You hear things thrown around all the time, like, oh, it's Harvard research, or a famous brain scientist proved it. So you'd think there would be this really clear paper trail, but when you actually start looking for it, things get really, really weird.
There isn't one, not a single peer-reviewed study anywhere in any scientific journal that has ever been published to back up the 10% claim. Zero.
We can't find the person who said it first. There is no original document, no lecture notes, nothing we can point to and say, aha, this is where it all started.
And this is the real kicker. Not one single serious neuroscientist from Harvard or anywhere else has ever stood behind this idea. So what we have is a fact with no author, a study with no data, and a theory with no scientist. So where in the world did it come from?
Well, it turns out this myth wasn't really invented on purpose. It was kinda assembled by accident. It's the result of a long game of telephone, a chain reaction of screw-ups and misinterpretations that happened over decades. So here's basically how it went down. It all started way back when early scientists were mapping the brain. They were honest, and they said, look, there are large parts of the brain and we don't know what they do yet. But somehow, that admission of unknown got twisted into unused. Then a popular writer talked about our untapped human potential and people just slapped that idea right onto the brain. And of course, once the media and the self-help gurus got a hold of this exciting fact, it just exploded.
Okay, so now let's bring in the big guns. Let's look at how modern neuroscience just completely blows this idea out of the water. We've got 3 rock-solid pieces of evidence that prove the 10% myth is basically impossible.
So here is the absolute key difference. The myth makes you think your brain is like a huge house with 90% of the lights off. But the reality? The reality is that the entire house is lit up all the time. Sure, when you're talking, the lights in the language room might get brighter, and when you're looking at something, the vision room brightens up. But no room is ever completely dark.
Let's break these down real quick. First, we have brain scans. Cool technologies like fMRI and PET scans let us watch the brain in real time. And guess what? They show a constant buzz of activity across the whole thing, even when you're sleeping. Second, evolution. Evolution is super efficient, right? It wouldn't let us keep a giant, energy-guzzling organ if 90% of it was useless. That's just terrible design. And third, and this is the tragic proof, we know from people who've had strokes or brain injuries that even a tiny bit of damage can have devastating effects on their ability to speak, or remember, or move. If 90% of the brain was just sitting there, that wouldn't happen.
And this chart really drives that evolution point home. Look at this. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, but it burns through 20% of your body's total energy. 20%. Can you imagine evolution letting us keep an organ that hogged that much fuel just to let 90% of it do absolutely nothing? No way. It makes zero sense.
So if the science is so crystal clear, why on earth does this myth refuse to die? Well, the answer isn't in neuroscience. It's actually in psychology. It's a story that we just find incredibly appealing. This is the heart of it right here. The myth tells you that who you are right now, that's not the final version. It whispers that there's some secret button you can press, some key that will unlock a smarter, better you. And maybe the most powerful part? It's a great excuse. If you fail at something, well, it's not that you couldn't do it, you just haven't unlocked that other 90% yet. It's comfort.
And this just nails it. The 10% brain idea isn't really a lie somebody told us. It's a story we tell ourselves. It's a hopeful story about what humans could be, a story about having more potential than we even realize.
But here's the thing about powerful stories. Whether they're true or not, they have very real consequences in the world. Some of them good, and some of them, well, not so much.
So on the one hand, you have to admit, it's actually done some good.
The idea of having untapped potential has really inspired people to learn new things, to challenge themselves, to believe they can do more. It got people interested in the brain. But there is a huge downside. It's hurt scientific literacy. It's created this massive industry for bogus brain training gadgets, and it lets shady companies justify selling expensive and exploitative seminars that promise to unlock your hidden power.
So let's finish up by swapping out the myth for the much cooler truth. If we can't unlock a secret 90%, then how do we actually get smarter and better at things? The real answer is just as amazing, even if it's a little less magical.
The real secret sauce is a concept called brain plasticity. It's your brain's incredible, mind-blowing ability to physically rewire itself based on what you do and what you learn. Every single time you practice an instrument or study a language or learn a new skill, you are literally changing the structure of your brain. You're building new connections and strengthening old ones.
And that's the real key. A genius doesn't use more of their brain than you do. They use 100% of it, just like everybody else. The difference is that through years of practice, the brain circuits they use for their specific skill have become incredibly fast and efficient. It's not about having more brain space, it's about having better, faster roads for information to travel on.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. We fell in love with a 10% myth because it told us a hopeful, flattering story about ourselves. It just felt true, which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other popular facts that we accept every day are just comforting stories we'd rather not question?